Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. On behalf of CITLoB, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Our presenter today is a seasoned freelance German-English language expert who brings extensive international experience to the language services industry. Working as an independent contractor, he has collaborated with language service providers and direct clients across APEC region, Middle East, and Europe. As a consulate certified translator, he specializes in translating and attesting personal documents for students and working professionals navigating visa processes. His expertise extends to consecutive interpreting across English, Hindi, Marathi, and German, with demonstrated experience in healthcare, sales, finance, and job interview settings. He is a proprietor of WordScale Language Solutions, specializing in text content localization. Beyond his client work, he is committed to advancing the profession through education, having conducted translation technology workshops for the University of Mumbai and various private language training institutes. So please join me in welcoming Sanket Joshi. Welcome, Sanket.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of insights, and I think we can take the questions towards the end of the session. So any questions or queries that you have, you could probably put them in the chat box, and then we can address them later. Over to you, Sanket.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And a huge shout out to CITLoB for organizing this because they always work hard in raising awareness about localization. And for me, it's been a learning experience thanks to CITLoB. So thanks a lot. So basically, today's topic is obviously, as you know, innovations in localization technology. So localization in itself remains quite a less trodden path as an industry because people seem to not know much about it as much as they know about the IT industry or about most other industries as career avenues for themselves. So localization goes beyond translation. Basically, it cannot be equated with translation. It ensures that the intended product or service resonates with customers, which eventually drives sales. So it is essentially cultural adaptation for businesses to build a brand and help in consistent customer engagement across markets. For example, if I'm a business and I'm seeking expansion in another state in the country or in another country altogether, I have to get my content localized. For example, my website, my app, my videos, for example, any other content that I might have. So as to make the people there understand what I'm selling and make the product or service appealing to them. So localization helps enhance the company's reputation and credibility as well. It ensures compliance with local laws and regulations. That's an important part of localization. It differs from translation in many aspects. For example, there's culture, dialect, regional statistics, preferences, weather, food, everything has to be factored in before adapting the content. So basically, it's all about the notion, about the fact that people buy what they understand. So you have to create content that helps sell your product in a specific region, taking into account the cultural nuances, the preferences of people, their likes and dislikes, and all of that stuff. So basically, that is what localization is about. Now, what the hot topic since the last few years is AI in localization, because AI has been quite a disruptor in the entire market, not just in localization but overall. So AI has been integrated on a large scale for lower costs primarily. It's for cost cutting, also for faster turnaround times and shorter process cycle. AI basically helps cater to growing market demands with greater efficiency since you get a lot of your stuff automated and you can deliver in a much shorter turnaround time compared to what would have been if it were just manual intervention or manual workflows. So AI ensures enhanced quality assurance check through consistency and adherence to style guides as well, because you can use the LLMs, use the TMS in a more automated fashion to ensure consistency even in CAT tools when you're translating. AI is ideal for continuous localization, right? For in case of software delivery for faster time to market. So basically, AI manages process automation systems making ample time for resources to focus on higher level tasks like trans creation, for example. So if I am integrating AI in my workflow, a lot of things get automated. Uh, I could get a machine translated output which is ready made for me, which is even preserves contextual relevance in certain cases. So I don't have to translate from scratch, but then I will have to proofread it. I will have to transcreate it. I will have to ensure creative translation is adhered to, and I will also have to understand that AI cannot AI is basically working based on data clusters and data points, and I have to humanize it basically for the target market, for the target customer. So this is a great analogy that I had read about somewhere on the internet. AI works like over-the-counter medicines like Crocin or Dolo. So, for example, when you just got the chills or you just have fever or you have cold, you don't necessarily go to your family doctor. If you go to them, they would just say, please take a Crocin or a Dolo or something like that. Come to me only when things get serious. So AI is kind of like the OTC medicines. It acts as your assistant when you are a translator. It does not replace you essentially. So the language doctor takes care of serious cases, is what the analogy could explain. So this is what AI integration in localization is about. And the AI wave is about it was all has always been about transforming content creation, about and also about content management and delivery. Because as I mentioned, automation has been brought in. Uh, AI goes in multilingual workflows beyond translation, and it has been the hot topic, and it's being adopted rapidly across sectors and across regions all across the world. So this is a McKinsey and Company ka statistics which I have cited here. Actions organizations have taken to automate their business processes. Okay, so basically businesses have set up an automation program and are scaling automation technologies across multiple parts of the business. It's not just the localization or the translation or the content based workflow that is being automated. AI is there to automate a lot of workflows, a lot of elements in the workflow of different nature. Businesses have fully automated uh, processes in at least one function or business unit. So this is the percentage over here. As you can see, piloting the automation of business processes in at least one function or business unit. So there is a huge chunk of businesses here where a part of the workflow has been entirely automated as well. So this is the statistic about businesses that have not yet initiated automation, but plan to do so. So basically, automation has become a trend that is which most sectors are riding right now because it helps with cost cutting. Cost optimization is the most uh, important goal. It also helps with efficiency. It helps with accuracy as well. Uh, Now, as I explained, AI as an assistant, the best AI outcomes are driven by quality data and seamless technology. So enterprises aim to build repositories of data, models, and their own repositories, their own kind of memories. Translation memories is also we call in case of translation, and linguistic assets like TMs over time to achieve process optimization in terms of consistency, accuracy, and efficiency. That is what is being strived for in case of AI. Availability and accessibility of linguistic assets across systems and platforms is important. Tech debt has to be minimized because complexity of tech stack and inability to transfer linguistic assets and systems to emerging new technologies or upgrades is a challenge in automation. I will address this with a couple of important elements that will be discussed, which are connectors and APIs, which are important in the localization workflow. I'll explain the same. So, complex and layered translation management systems are an impediment to smooth data sharing. So, TMS also has to be automated and made as user friendly and as smooth, as seamless as possible. So, that is also where AI plays a crucial role. And currently, today, as we speak, systems are localization is becoming more automated, more data driven, and more strategic. So, but now I would probably right now is the right time to to discuss connectors and APIs. Basically, as we know, TMs are there. So translation memories, basically programs that record everything that we translate as translators. And whenever there is a document which comes up again, maybe even 2 years later, which has similar kind of content as as the kind of content that I have translated in the past, my TM is going to auto translate it. I don't have to translate it again. That is the basic purpose of a TM. So TM in itself is also an automation interface. It is also an automation system. It automates a lot of repetitive workflow in translation. So similarly, there are other parts of the localization workflow which not only automate but also eliminate a lot of processes which require manual translation, manual intervention, not translation, and make things more accurate and more efficient. So connectors are basically pre-built integration elements for linking a content system with a TMS or localization platform. For example, if somebody wants their website translated, I will use a connector to pull the content from their website instead of manually downloading files and copying and pasting content and then having it translated, then exporting it again, and then sending it to the client and asking them to upload and all of that. Connectors can be used to automate the entire process. Of course, there will be uh, sorry, parts of the process which will need manual intervention, like a translator, for example, will check the machine translated output as part of the workflow, and they will make changes. They will, adhere to quality assurance, and then submit the file back to the team, which will then communicate to the client. But connector in itself automates a lot of things and makes things easier in the sense that, like I mentioned, a lot of manual uploading and downloading and copying and pasting gets eliminated. Okay. So why do connectors matter in localization? Basically, without connectors or APIs I'll explain, of course. Without connectors or APIs, teams will have to download all of this stuff and then treat it all manually, which will increase the error margin as well, which will also increase the turnaround time, which we don't want. Okay. Now, for example, a connector. So, for example, if a website is being built using WordPress, and if there is an article in WordPress which needs translation, a website, so such a website article can be automatically sent to the translation management system for translation, where it will get translated and proofread, and everything will be ready in terms of content translation and transcreation. And then it will automatically get bounced back and get uploaded even in real time if and when needed. That is the important aspect of a connector. So basically, connectors are kind of working behind the curtains. We as language professionals do not get to actually use or see their prominence, but they are extremely important parts of the localization workflow. Connectors basically enable continuous localization as well, because modern products, especially software as a service kind of platforms and SAS, subscription based services also, and products also, and mobile apps, for example, they keep releasing updates on weekly or monthly basis. And so basically, manual workflows cannot keep up with this. And connectors and APIs help uh, with automatic detection of new software strings or the ones that have been updated or changed or tampered with, whatever. And it also enables instant dispatch uh, of the content for machine translation, and thereafter also to the translator for humanizing it. Similarly, APIs or application programming interfaces are customizable interfaces that enable two different systems to interact with each other via structured requests. So, in cases of API, for example, uh, APIs also contribute to reducing turnaround time. Automation cuts delays, which are caused by, for example, file uploads and email approvals and all of that. So, even the file versions that get uploaded, they also have to be checked in case of manual intervention. So even that doesn't need any checking in if connectors and APIs are used. Uh, for example, a connector between an interface building platform like Figma and a translation management system will enable UI text snippets to be sent across for translation directly from the design mockup, which synchronizes changes in real time. So basically, as far as content, not just translation, but pulling of content and then treating it for localization, then adapting it and then giving it back is concerned, connectors and APIs are important tools which automate the process, make it seamless, and make it more accurate, make it devoid of errors to the greatest extent. So such tools basically improve consistency and reduce error margin, like I said. For example, there is inconsistency in translation, for example. So certain terms do not get translated. They get translated in 10 different ways in the same document, which we don't want. Even though the 10 translations are uh, accurate technically when taken out of context in isolation, but in that specific document, we need a specific word for that source word. In such cases, AI based workflow, MT, and all of these things, they contribute a lot, not just connectors right now. Obviously, I'm bouncing back to the main topic. So AI as an assistant. So basically, in such cases, uh, AI works to ensure consistency, to ensure minimal differing translations in the same document or in the same piece of content. Now, yeah, back to the slide. So as we speak, localization is becoming more automated and data driven. But despite this, and despite what a lot of people have been writing on LinkedIn, AI is not really entirely reliable as absolute. Manual intervention is still required to a great extent, especially when there are bullet points like these, which you can see in these slides. AI, so these are not full sentences, right? These are not entire sentences. These are just highlight points. So, for example, if I run this through machine translation, it is very likely that it will screw up the translation because it does not know the context. It might not know what is being spoken about as a whole. So, in such cases, especially in such cases, human intervention is needed. For example, last year when I was working with Microsoft on translation of their business training material, including PPTs and in their videos, which, by the way, were they had subtitling which was AI, which was done by AI. Even the transcription was done by AI. The translation of the subtitles was done by AI. But we had to review all of that stuff, and we found a lot of errors, like lot of serious errors. Maybe the magnitude of those, the volume of errors or the volume of erroneous statements, content was not huge. The number of changes we had to make were not uh, like were not too much in volume, but we still had to make some crucial changes without which there it could have been a serious mess as far as the content is concerned. So AI is not reliable, is the point. AI will always need, for now at least, it will need manual intervention. So there's this NIMSI report. So NIMSI is a market research platform for the localization industry, and in one of their reports published this year, they mentioned that currently it's a seller's market for language service providers or LSPs. They basically mentioned that in 2025, uh, it has been a seller's market for at least 5 years. The interest to buy has outweighed the urge to sell, indicating private investors' high interest in scaling their business and signaling potential for more deals in 2025. But it is also to be considered that automation in workflows is being preferred by clients. They do not want an LSP which does everything manually, which uses MS Office, MS Word, and MS Excel and all. They need entities which automate the entire localization process, not in the sense that there is no human intervention needed, but certain parts of the process will need to be automated for higher efficiency, for higher accuracy, for cost optimization. Because deadlines are pretty tight, they are not going to give us leeway for uh, very basic tasks to be done manually, and even the primary kind of. stuff to be done manually. So in that sense, even smaller boutique LSPs have to adapt to automation, have to introduce automation in their localization workflow, have to use connectors, have to use APIs, for example, have to use management systems like Crowdin or SmartCat and stuff like that. Also, Asia currently is a hub for multilingual technology innovation. So basically, we in our country, for example, there are like tens of regional languages and hundreds of dialects, and there aren't as many data points for these as there are for European languages or other languages like Mandarin or even for Hindi. So regional languages are still lagging behind in terms of data points and data cluster for AI. So for that as well, we need language professionals in basically computational linguistics. There are entities like Servam AI or AI for Bharat or Now AI which are working on these projects, which are building LLMs or large language models for regional languages to automate the localization workflow even for regional languages. And by the way, there is a huge demand for localization into regional languages. For example, Ola or Uber or Rapido, these apps for booking a cab or apps for booking an auto rickshaw, whatever, transport apps online. These mediate, they have their own interface, which need to be translated, which needs to be localized into multiple regional languages. Because, for example, drivers might not be people who drive these cars or rickshaws. They might not be able to understand English as well. So they need to be localized into Hindi and Marathi and other regional languages. So there's a lot of demand as opposed to what we might instinctively think. So there are entities working on LLMs, large language models for regional languages, but has to be a supply of good language professionals who are proficient in regional languages. Okay, so I know I'm bouncing, I mean, like jumping from topics between topics randomly, but I am just thinking out loud in a way because there is a lot to discuss as far as localization technology is concerned. It's just that because there's not much awareness about localization as a career or as a profession, especially in India, we need to do our bit to make people understand in what ways they can contribute, right? Even as freelancers or as LSPs or as employees. Yeah, so we have already discussed connectors and APIs. There are other key tech components in localization which I would like to discuss. One is the CAT tool, computer aided translation. So basically, instead of getting a file, so when you get a file in Excel or in Word, instead of manually toggling between Word files for a source and for the target and then translating everything, there are CAT tools which make it easier for you. They are built specifically for translators to uh, make the process of translation easier and faster and more sophisticated. Because then they have features like translation memories, which I've already mentioned. They have a lot other features. The interface is very user friendly. It's much easier to translate in a CAT tool than it is in a Word or in an Excel file. A lot of automation happens, obviously. Okay, so that is what CAT tools are. I'll just give you some examples. SDL Trados is a very popular CAT tool. There's MemoQ, there's Phrase, XTN, there's Across, many other. There's Rian. There are a lot of CAT tools which get used. As a freelancer, LSPs might ask you to, work on a specific CAT tool for a specific project. More or less, the interfaces across CAT tools are similar. Even if you are good at operating one CAT tool, you'll be easily able to adapt to others. Then there are transition management systems like Crowdin or SmartCat, where all the entire localization workflow almost gets managed there. Everything from handling of files and downloading and proofreading and re-uploading them, and incorporation of connectors, even invoicing and all of that. gets done on crowded. So a lot of stuff. People who are, more, so LSPs, for example, people who are more well versed with TMS will be able to highlight all of those things and elaborate on each one of them properly. Right now, we are just getting an overview, so it's fine. So machine translation, basically MT, is the most obvious thing that most of you must be knowing. So there are a lot of MT engines like DeepL. Then there's IBM Watson, Google Translate, many such MT engines there. It's not like you can entirely rely on them, as I previously mentioned. MT is essentially AI only in a way. But whatever you get translated through an MT engine, it could be technical content, it could be especially literary or advertising content or copywriting content, which you will have to at any cost proofread and humanize, because there is no way you can blindly get something run through an empty engine and then send it directly to the client, because it screws things up in monumental proportions. So it is very important for us to understand that MT is just our assistant. It just makes our process easier and shorter. It does not eliminate the need for us as human translators. Then there are a lot of linguistic quality assurance tools like Xbench, which so after you're done translating, you can run your file through Xbench to point out errors that you could have made as a translator, like inconsistency. There could be punctuation errors. There could be tag errors. A lot of those things. Numerical mismatch, alphabetical mismatch, alphanumeric mismatch, anything like that between the original file and the translated file, right? So Xbench basically does a bilingual not proofreading, bilingual LQA of your file after you're done translating, and it gives you the errors to work on, and then that's how you can make the corrections. These are important parts of the localization workflow, but they do not constitute the workflow as a whole. There are other elements as well, like connectors and all, which I mentioned, which a localization engineer will be able to explain better, of course. But as us, as language professionals working on the front end, these are the important parts of the localization technology, the localization workflow.
So, since we are AI and MT is the hot
Yeah,
topic, so could
yeah,
you just elaborate a little more about MT plugins, maybe for freelancers, like a quick, short introduction about MT plugins, maybe?
yeah. So like uh, incorporating DeepL in Trados or something like that, right?
Yeah, a quick introduction.
Yeah, yeah. So there are maybe I'll just uh, share my screen.
Because the way you explained connectors and API was quite useful, but
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is SDL Trados which I'm working on. This is a English to German के लिए document. So uh, I do most of these. These are personal documents, so I have to do most of them manually. But I'll just tell you about how we could use a transfer. These are translation memories. I've just put random names there. Don't worry about the names. But basically, I can create a translation memory from here, which will record what I translate. Apart from that, mm, sorry, sorry, this is not in settings. So I can use pre-translate, for example, to is it? Yeah, this just runs the TM through the file. No? Because I myself don't use plugins largely, I'm a little confused.
okay,
Because
I thought
I
since you
run them through,
mentioned
yeah, I
maybe
sometimes just run them through DeepL or Makecat
yeah, yeah.
directly. So,
I think it can be a separate topic as well.
so this can be so cloud-based, server-based translation memories, any file-based VM. But do we need to deploy APIs for the same in such cases? Have you any idea about this?
Uh,
In
Not
case of
really.
using, okay, in case of using a file-based translation memory, for example, or cloud-based resources, because I've never even tried to, yeah, so
I
I'll
think,
have to get a,
yeah, we could have a separate topic and we
correct,
can
correct, yeah.
explore it later maybe. Yeah,
Right, right. Because in most, so in this is an offline cat tool. In case of Rian or other,
correct.
online cat tools, we can
The meme stores and all. Yeah,
directly deploy IBM Watson
yeah,
or Amazon or whichever MT engine.
correct, correct.
Right. Okay. This is
So
largely
these
it.
will also aid in translation, but human intervention is necessary, basically.
Yes, yes. Even in technical translation. For example, in case of legal documents, there are large sentences with a lot of clauses, right? A lot of clauses as in even in grammar and also legal clauses, but I in this I meant grammar wala clauses. So relative sentences and all of that, lot of conjunctions. So even in such cases, the empty engines make a lot of errors. So not just inconsistency and not just creative translation, but even basics have to be taken care of sometimes after empty engine deployment.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another statistic from Slater. Slater is another good website apart from Nimji for knowing more about the localization industry. So, top 10 cost inefficiencies faced by localization buyers. So, the question is, where do you see
Sanket,
the great? Sorry.
sorry, just a request. Can you just make the
Sure.
PPT full screen?
Okay.
So these figures are a little small. That's yeah.
Is it
Thank you
better
so
now?
much. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, the question is, where do you see the greatest cost efficiencies in your localization efforts? So, results are basically percentage of respondents that mentioned the specific factor, which is listed below. So, 38% respondents said insufficient use of AI and automation. Uh, Somebody who's more into the engineering or tech part of this will be able to elaborate better why they think so, why AI is not being deployed to the optimum. Then there's lack of internal coordination or centralization. This can be understood because there are translation management systems which are being used, but content management systems in as a whole do not provide that kind of ease yet as a centralized platform. There are a lot of things which project managers, for example, have to coordinate. So there have been talks in this year's Samvad conference also about eliminating the need for a project manager. But if there is no centralized and properly coordinated CMS, how will project managers be rendered redundant? Because there is no way we could do it automatically without manual intervention by a project manager without a properly centralized platform, right? There's excessive revision or QA. Like I mentioned, a lot of documents, even if the best kind of empty engines are deployed for the same, they still need a lot of revision, and the translators often have to almost entirely retranslate the document. So that happens quite uh, more frequently than we could think, right? So it's 14%. It's quite a number. High cost of TMS. Okay, so transition management systems they have their own pricing. Of course, they that might not be affordable to smaller enterprises. There's multimedia content. So there's not just text or documents. There's of course video, audio. There's Instagram content. There's LinkedIn content which needs to be localized. So in such cases, obviously, uh, there's no automation that we can entirely rely on. Then there's inefficient process design. Again, this is the tech part. I might not be able to, I won't be able to elaborate a lot. Lack of content strategy. So lack of uh, content strategy, as in how content could be managed and what kind of content has to be created and what part of it needs to be adapted and to what extent is what concerns us. Then there's poor quality and slow turnarounds from vendors. So sometimes when a lot of uh, boutique LSPs, even bigger LSPs, sometimes they end up uh, collaborating with translators which do not properly know the use of cat tools. Sometimes that might be a reason, but I guess it is. Also because of excessive use of because of the lack of automation on the vendor's part of sorry, I would say. The lack of automation, the lack of understanding of localization technology on the vendor's part. Then there's low quality source content itself that uh, the onus is on the client. Uh, then there's lack of legal or regulatory clarity. Even this part, I mean, I don't know what to elaborate on this, but for example, there are data protection regulations when as far as Europe is concerned. So understanding the compliance part of it during localization, maybe that could be an impediment. So okay, this is another statistic that I've sorry. So how has your business changed in the last 6 months? This versus CSA research. This is about the percentage of respondents, uh, you know, aligned to a specific answer. So, for example, a lot of like more than half of respondents said that their income has decreased. Volume of work from LSPs, from language agencies. So, people like me work with language agencies largely for translations. We do not, it's not like we work with all these MNCs and bigger clients all by ourselves. We need LSPs to be the mediators because there's a lot of content and lot of things that form a part of form parts of the localization workflow. So 49%, almost half of the respondents said that there is decreased volume of work from language service providers, which is concerning, but it's not surprising since AI has been such a disruptor. Uh, Volume of work from direct clients has also decreased a lot. Rates have decreased. So, but 67% respondents have to say that rates have stayed the same. That's, I don't know. That's bad actually, since we're not able to beat inflation that way. So, in a way, that's good, but also bad. So, yeah, so the rates, only 12% respondents have to say that the rates have increased. And yeah, so largely, and just 28% of respondents have to say that the income has stayed the same across years, despite AI being integrated into the workflow. But this is largely a statistic. This is just an overview. Uh, we cannot say that this is the final kind of uh, I would say the final kind. We cannot say that this is the only thing that has happened, and this is going to continue as well. There could be a flip side to this, as in as language service providers or as language professionals, we can integrate AI in our own workflow and we can automate a lot of things. Our turnaround times get reduced. A lot of work which we used to do earlier manually, we don't have to do it manually anymore. So there's a lot of advantage on our part as well. So largely, I'll just summarize. Basically, localization, as I said, is cultural adaptation of content. It's not just translation. It's not even just text translation. It also has transcription. It has subtitling. It has dubbing and voiceover as well, right? Because you might have seen a lot of YouTube ads or television ads which are originally done in Hindi, but if you are watching a Marathi channel or a Gujarati channel, they are played in Gujarati or in Marathi. So that's where localization comes in as well. And regarding the deployment of AI and the integration of machine translation and localization, it is inevitable. There is no way we can stop it. But it is also important to understand that manual intervention is very much necessary, for which the most primary requirement before anything else is good language skills. Because if you do not know the source language and the target language well, you will not be able to translate it, as simple as that. You will not be able to proofread properly. And one thing that you need apart from this is good awareness and good knowledge of localization technology. As a language professional, you need to know how to use a cat tool, any cat tool. You need to know what cat tools are, how they work. You need to know translation memories, all of that. You basically need to have an overview of how, for example, a website gets localized using WordPress plugins, for example, WPML and stuff like that, or also how it gets done manually if the client does not have the budget for connectors and APIs. So having an overview of all of these it's not difficult because you can literally talk to Chat GPT about all of this stuff. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, anything, if you have anything to discuss, please.
In case of any questions, I think you can unmute and ask them directly. In the meanwhile, I think we have a few questions during the
Sure.
registration. So there were questions related to AI, how to get more leads for projects in the times of AI and digital innovation. Again, a similar question on the same note is, now that AI is taking up the market, what should translators do in this case? How should they prepare themselves for this?
So, for anyone with less than about 3 to 4 years of experience, it is going to be very difficult, to be honest, because the entry barrier is higher than ever. And simply being good at two languages is not enough anymore. And simply being able to understand what Google Translate is or DeepL is not enough. You will have to provide an end-to-end service either, because you'll have to have a DTP team and a localization engineer and a QA team, and then provide an entire end-to-end localization service, including audio localization and content localization. Either that, or you will have to be experienced and already having clients. So for people who have been in the industry for a decade or say at least 6 to 7 years, they already know how to navigate. But for freshers, it is going to be difficult. So I would suggest, getting into a job or getting into teaching first, and then doing this as a side hustle, because there is you're going to take time to understand how to navigate how translations are done in today's times, how AI can be integrated, and to what extent you will be needed as a language. So sadly, it's going to be difficult. Yeah, for freshers.
Right. I think Soumitra has a question. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure. Sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sanket. It was a wonderful
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
presentation. Can you please go to the last slide of that
Sure, sure.
research? Yeah. Uh, okay. This is interesting. Can you maybe put it on PowerPoint
As in,
slideshow?
sorry.
Okay. Now, my question is very simple. If we are talking about decreased income and
Right,
a decreased volume of work, and we're
right,
talking about incorporating AI or I mean, machine translation in our workflow,
right.
I would like to know what would be the approximate numbers that we will be investing in that subscription or maybe APIs or whatever it is. If you can give us a rough figure of whatever software, as in the costing of the software, so that we know exactly where to start when we're starting or when we're taking this as a,
Right.
now you've said it, but as a principal source of income.
Correct, correct. So software as in connectors and all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
so
if we are talking about any GPTs to be installed,
Yeah, yeah. So usually the localization engineer does it because they have to deploy the connectors on their part and then make sure that the tech part is entirely clean. For example, there are no lags. There is no the wrong kind of version does not get uploaded and all of that. So that is usually the back end part which the localization engineer takes care of. And as far as I know, they usually charge by the hour or by the project, and they take care of the connector part or the API part. And there, as far as the client's part is concerned, they have to buy, for example, in case of WordPress driven websites, there's WPML, which is a plugin which costs around $99, the basic version of it, annually, as far as I know.
uh,
But the
this
connectors and
is
all,
you're
yeah,
talking
the
when we are,
engineers take care of.
sorry, come
Sorry.
again.
The connectors and all, whenever they are needed, the engineers take care of it. So it depends on their charges. So I'll have to consult with an engineer as well. I'll ask my engineer about the same. But there are
Right.
no specific engines that we could directly buy and deploy. So
But this is
engineers interventionism.
this is when you're working with a translation company, right?
Yeah.
What
Correct.
if when I'm working as a freelancer,
Yeah.
my client will come up and say कि यार ट्रांसलेटर तू है तो मैं जीपीटी के पैसे क्यों खर्च करूं?
Correct. Yeah.
So,
So
in that case, we have to put that money, we have to make that investment
correct.
in our career. So,
Right.
for that, can you give us a rough figure of maybe SDL Trados ka subscription itne ka hota hai and something like that? And can
So
you put the
Trados,
video on so that I can see when you're
Trados full version, I think it costs around 45,000 or something. I'll just
Yeah.
recheck.
Yeah, it's around 45,000
Correct.
for a freelancer.
Yeah. And for example, if a client needs their website localized, obviously I cannot copy and paste the content and all of that. I'll need connectors and all. For that, when I consult, I'll have to have an engineer first in the first place. And when I consult them, they'll charge by the hour. For example, for European clients, they charge around $150 or $200 an hour, as far as I know. And for example, if there are 4 to 5 pages on a website that need to be localized, the main page, the services page, the about us, contact, and all of those pages, they'll need about 6 to 8 hours. In as far as I know, as far as my experience is concerned in localizing websites. So that is the calculation. So we'll have to, as a language professional, I'll have to put my markup accordingly and consider the engineer's costs and my own cost as a proofreader, because the engineer is only going to give me the content for translation. The rest of the work they'll have to do themselves, in case of a website, for example, or an app.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else?
I think Mr. Bhojan has a question, but I'm not
Sure.
very sure what. I did not really understand it completely. Induction of AI in the localization industry reduces the LSP market or affect it. Mr. Bhojan, can you kindly elaborate on this, please?
Maybe he means to what extent LSPs will be affected because of
Affected.
AI integration.
Okay.
So Nimji says that the smaller players will definitely be affected, because it's going to be difficult for them in terms of the engineering and the cost aspect of engineering also, and all the technology stack, the entire technology stack in localization. Having a team like that and being able to afford that and doing it full time, it's going to be difficult for boutique LSP.
Correct.
Yes, that is what exactly I wanted to ask, because
Yeah,
you see, a lot of LSPs are getting merged with other big clients. The
correct.
smaller LSPs are getting dissolved. Through LinkedIn, you can
Correct.
see
A lot of
many.
acquisitions that are
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
So I've put this Nimji report link in the chat. You can
Yeah,
read that.
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other questions? If you have any other questions, you could just directly write to us and we could direct them to Sanket and we can address them. But
Yeah, that works.
yeah. So we would just like to thank you for all the insights. And it was a
Thank you.
lovely presentation. I'm sure it
Thank you.
helped
Thanks for having me.
everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
on behalf of CITLoB. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
And thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.